great football game.
I don't know what game you watched, but Texas High blew them out.
I know. Oh, that's what I mean. I mean, yeah, they did in every aspect of the game. It was just a great football game.
It was. Before we get started in the teams, game day broke basically every record we had for viewership this first weekend.
Right.
So,
would you have 90,000 views between LE and Pleasant Grove games?
No, 275,000 total views, and that was Sunday morning. The PG game ended up, now this is going to Tuesday, ended up with like 111,000 viewers just on Facebook. That doesn't include YouTube, anything else. So our biggest opening weekend ever for viewership. Liberty-Eylau actually came in second. They had like 65,000 live viewers. And Texas High, keep in mind they played on a Thursday against a team that isn't really from around here, so they probably don't know what game day is. But they had like 45,000 live viewers. And I know when you add all that together, that didn't come out to 275, but I'm counting those as like when the game stopped. That's how many people had watched that game.
Right.
So, but technically, I went up to 48 hours after. And so big time viewership. After all the highlights came out, I hadn't done the math, but it's easily over 1.5 million views for our local athletes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I never would have thought 5 years ago when we started this, when we started just doing what we're doing right now at a football game, that it would lead into those kind of views and that kind of exposure.
Yeah, I seen your post on Facebook about that. I mean, just the exposure for just our area athletes is just – what other area does that for kids? I mean, can you name another one? I mean, I don't even know.
You know, there are some places that have, tried to emulate what we are doing, and it's not working kind of like we are. So, they may have a school or they may do it over here, but – not do the rest. I don't know how to explain it, but just
right.
this tech, even us in Longview, we just do Longview High School. So, but here, I don't think there's anything like this. There may be a TV station somewhere that's trying to emulate it, but I don't think what we're doing.
They don't go in depth like you do.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not me. We have, all of us. There's a ton of people behind the scenes you don't see. There's a lot of people that just help sending information because it's impossible to get all the information. It's been amazing. Kind of excited to see what this weekend looks like, and how it compares. Because we'll have, we got to do some checking today. Doty's going up to Argyle to be sure we can stream that Texas High game because the stadium's not really, I guess, they're not used to people streaming. Donovan's going down to Henderson tomorrow to be sure we can do the Liberty-Eylau game. And then, of course, PG Paris, we've done that before, so we're good to go there.
Hey, so this quick question, and this is kind of off the wall, but when you mentioned Longview game day, did you ever get Pizza King on as a sponsor?
Oh, man, Pizza King's, I'm going to have to start getting Domino's or something. I don't know what's going on with Pizza King, man. I ain't responding to your boy.
Hey, that's all we talk about. Everybody gets Pizza King when they go to Longview.
How about every week Pizza King doesn't sponsor Longview game day? I'm going to take a little off. So, this week the cheese just wasn't right last time I had it. Cheese just wasn't perfect on my Pizza King pizza. Next week, we'll talk about the toppings.
Right.
But anyway, speaking of Texas High, David J, 17 for 22, 78% completions. 2 incomplete passes. I believe both. It was back-to-back passes. I believe both were pass interference calls on Cam Reitner. I don't know how they don't call that on Texas High's sideline if they didn't. But anyway, long story short, he could have very well been around the 85% mark for completions. Dang near 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. That RPO, I don't know if y'all watched it at all, but it was nasty.
Well, he looked so poised back there. To me, he looked like he was 9 games into a season.
Yeah.
And, this goes back to all the success and the time that he has spent the last 2 years, under the helm. And, I mean, I just think that offense is going to be so prolific. And the only way that I think a team is going to be able to match up against Texas High is to have some sort of anomaly on some special teams touchdowns to try to, keep up with that offense.
We talk about T-Ball and Javari quite a bit, both Division I running backs. But you got 2 young receivers, they're juniors now, that are really stepping into the spotlight, and that's Shavonte Montgomery and Cam Reitner. They both showed up and showed out last week, and you put those 2 with the other players and the other skill players, Texas High is going to be unstoppable on offense.
Yeah, I mean, Cameron Reitner, 100 yards. Shavonte Montgomery, 125. Both of them averaged over 20 yards per catch, 3 touchdowns between them. I mean, it was pretty nasty.
Well, and the defense is helping out by, getting turnovers. And it was just a great game.
Oh, and Quay Ford picked up a big Ole Miss offer this week. Shout out to Quay.
And that offensive line. Hey, ruthless.
Quay also had an offer from A&M.
Yeah, it was 2 this week.
Two this week.
Yep.
Yep.
Hey, he was at the A&M Notre Dame game. Him and T-Ball actually. He picked up that offer down there.
Well, that is big news for Quay.
Important to note, Javari, 16 carries, 110 yards with a TD. Tre'Davious Ball had a big game. Had a particular play where he hurdled a defender out of a spin move, and if you didn't know why he's one of the top running backs in the country, that would have showed he's super athletic. I don't know if a lot of y'all do Instagram and all that and TikTok, but he went viral, I think is what they call it. We had the best angle, but we didn't get it out first. So no shout out to my guys on that. So,
well, this week,
but the O-line looked great. O-line looked great.
Oh, yeah,
a little bit on the defense. Darnell Williams won our defensive MVP award in his first varsity game in the state of Texas. Absolutely balled out. 9 tackles, a pick 6. Could have had 2 other interceptions. One of them he did catch, but was negated because of a penalty. I mean, played an amazing football game. Isaiah Dowden, 11 tackles, a tackle for a loss. I want to give a shout out to Alex Jones, man. I really kept my eye on him. He's a ball hawk. Moved in from a safety position down to a linebacker. Was killing it. And, of course, the guy that's not going to show up big on the stat sheet, Duncan McGee, played a great football game, at a defensive tackle position.
Oh, for sure.
And Jamarian Hope, 2 QB pressures, 4 tackles from the defensive end position. Great football player.
well, this week the Tigers travel out to Argyle to play Trinity Christian. No, Liberty Christian. That team.
I'm about to say, I don't think Trinity wants those problems.
That's a school. Shadur Sanders went to Liberty Christian. Jason Witten's the coach. It's a football factory. This should be a fantastic game.
Yeah, Liberty Christian on offense. 10 seniors starting on offense. The lone junior is the quarterback. They're coming off an undefeated state championship season. Defense has like 7 seniors starting, 14 Division I players on this team. So no cakewalk here. But I do see a little rivalry here going between private school and public school because the private school polls have Liberty Christian winning big. Public polls have Texas High winning big. So neither one of them are going to say that the other one's better. So we'll see. Texas High is a great football team. Coach Stanford, man, I think this is a year he's been looking forward to. And these next 3 games are going to be important. They have Liberty Christian, Midlothian Heritage, and they turn right around and drive all the way up to Fayetteville to play a state championship.
7-18.
7-18.
I'm excited to see that game.
So, there's a possibility we could, Texas High could be sitting here 1-4 going into week 5, but that might not be a bad thing because, they're playing some great competition. But I think, personally, they're going to be coming back 4-0.
Man, from what I saw Friday night, that Texas High team in every aspect of the game was just awesome. I mean, offensive line to the running, David J back there, the defense. I mean, I can't say enough. I mean, that's probably the best high school football game that I've watched in a long, long time.
Yeah, they play the most college-ready football of anyone in the area, for sure.
Well, and this is going to be, one of those games that you sort of circle on, when is a group going to be tested? Last week, Liberty Christian did put 56 up. They are ranked number 1 in taps. So, we'll see, where the defense measures up. I think it's definitely going to lean towards Texas High. And then anytime you've got an offense that can put 56 up, that's going to be impressive going in on paper. But if we played the games on paper, we wouldn't even be up here.
Yeah, they ain't putting 56 up this week. Taking any and all bets.
Well, good luck, Texas High. We're pulling for you. The ones that can't make it, catch them live. We hope we can catch you live if that stadium works out. Do they have their own stadium? Is that what we're checking out, or do they share?
Yeah, they do. They don't have internet at that stadium, which is odd to me.
In the Dallas area.
Yeah, you don't have internet at your football stadium, so we're having to find a building close, hope it has internet, and then we're going to have to run 2 miles worth of internet to the stadium, man. It's like some of these places, it's just a joke. you know.
Well, it was kind of like the baseball game last year. Remember when you were looking
And what's
for-
crazy is they send a link. Oh, you can watch the game at this link. Well, how do you have internet but your stadium doesn't?
Right.
How are you streaming it, sir?
Yeah.
You know. But anyway, that's just schools try to do us dirty because they don't want their fans to see what we're doing.
Well, if Elon's got an upgrade to Starlink, he can give us a ring.
I actually have a Starlink. I bought a Starlink after that Liberty-Eylau baseball game in Mount Pleasant when the school wouldn't let us use the internet that time. So I went and bought a Starlink, and I have a Starlink in my van up in Montana, but I bought one just for here, and it's just not quite fast enough for what we need. It's great for home internet, but it's not quite fast enough for what we do. And the plan up was like $1,000 for the first 3 gigabytes, and we use like 16 to 20 gigabytes a game. So your boy can't afford that. So anyway, let's move it along.
But I will say this before we move on about the internet. I realized how important it was last year during basketball season, the internet strength, when we were down in Hallsville for the playoff.
Man, hope Hallsville never wins another game of anything. Dude, Hallsville.
And because you didn't want to talk about them last night on the Texas High Takeaway or
I'm
whatever.
just saying, man, like I do not care for Hallsville. Like they just, how are you gonna spend $10,000 to rent a facility and then say, oh, you can't use our internet? Right. You know what I mean? Like, hey, Hooks, don't ever play there again. Don't give them no money.
All right, moving on. Who we got, Jake?
Believe we have Pleasant Grove.
There we go.
Traveling to Paris, but looking at last week's game, win over Atlanta. Definitely enjoyed seeing the W up there and the offense, scoring a few. Defense scored one. Pleasant Grove definitely needs to clean up a little bit on the turnover game.
Yeah, six fumbles. I didn't even realize that till
We
the
lost
stat sheet
4.
came out. Like that is nuts. But there was some weather, some bad weather in there. But yeah, I mean it was 6 fumbles in a game, losing 4 of them. That's rough.
Yeah.
354 total yards, 351 coming on the ground. Yeah, I mean, it didn't look great, but, win's a win. 33-3 win over good, senior-heavy Atlanta team, matters. And it was a good game. Early, man, it looked like.
It was scary.
After the first 2 possessions, I thought, man, Atlanta's going to beat Pleasant Grove.
And there were definitely some cobwebs that had to be cleared out. And, when you look back at the game, the defense, they were on the field in a lot of plays. And they still held Atlanta to under 100 yards total offense, which is pretty impressive. Man,
but listen, like this score is not really indicative of the game. I mean, Atlanta's up 3-0. They have the ball. They're going down to score. They're in the red zone. And then you get the strip fumble. The ball never touched the ground.
Yeah, he just took it.
He just took the ball from him and then ran for a touchdown. I don't know how one of them refs didn't blow the whistle because I thought it could have there's 2 things that could have happened. It could have very easily have been called forward progress because there was nobody around this dude but Hawk players. Shout out to them for stripping the ball. And then they didn't blow a whistle because it took him a while to start running. I was just surprised nobody blew a whistle because I was standing in the end zone where I didn't really get to see what happened until he took off. But Atlanta, let's just say Atlanta scores right there. It's 10-0.
Well, actually, we were up 6-3, but it'd have been 10-6.
Okay, you're right. Yeah. So,
but it goes could have been 10-6 to 13-3.
Yeah, and then there was another situation where I was on the field. Atlanta got a terrible spot, and it ended up they ended up not getting the first down. They would have been first and goal from the 1.5. I can't imagine they don't score from there. But, I guess they had 3 plays to get 2 yards and they didn't, so maybe they wouldn't have. But, they were – this could have been a lot closer ball game than the score in shows is what I'm getting at.
And it also, there's another side to that. If PG doesn't fumble the ball 4 times, it could have been 50-3 also. It was – PG's offense has some work to do. The defense – they're right where they need to be.
Yeah, defense is pretty good. Atlanta's got a good football team. Don't let this score make you think they don't. They do. They're going into Hooks this Friday night. It'll be a great football game. Shout out to some leaders on this. Nick Bells went for 45 yards and a touchdown. Roland Ritchie, who, man, dude's got some wheels.
Oh, he's fast.
Averaged 9.5 yards a carry, 94 yards on the ground. Marcus Floyd, 16 yards. He got a touchdown. You got Jamarian Richardson, Jay Rich, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns. But, I think the story really of this game is how well the defense played. And, the All-American Lance Jackson, 2 sacks. You could not, like we thought, you can't run on that side of the defense. And I was really surprised to see BJ on Lance's side of the ball. It's kind of like they're saying, all right, you got to go the other way. You can't come over here, And
Pleasant Grove actually had quite a few different, hats playing defensive line. And so, they proved that depth could be something they go to later in the season. And just to keep them fresh, because there are going to be a lot of Hawks that are asked to be playing both sides of the ball. And so, they're going to be able to, get a couple plays off, get rested, and then get back out there. So I was pretty impressed with how many different rotations they had on the defensive line.
Yeah, and I want to say this about Lance's little highlight on Texas County Game Day. You already know that he's tall, right? But when he stretches out, to tackle, I can't remember the kid's name.
Peyton Harrison.
Peyton Harrison. Yeah, when he stretches out to tackle him, how long he is, and just gets him by the feet. Great highlight.
Lance super athletic.
Oh, for sure.
Rankings, Carthage with the loss to Kilgore stays at 1. There's 2 on here that I'm just like, I just don't understand. Like, I don't understand. Let me just read them off to you. 2 is Glen Rose, 3 is Wimberley, 4 Belleville, 5 Gilmer with the loss to 4A Division I large school Pine Tree, which, by the way, beat Texas High last year. Brock stays at 6 somehow. Pleasant Grove stays at 7 somehow. And Wimberley moves from 8 to 3. And I'm going to remind y'all who Wimberley is because you probably don't know. They are best known for getting blown out on national TV multiple times in state championship games. They suck.
They're about 64-0 in the regular season.
Yeah, like they'll blow everybody out down there in the freaking hill country. But the second they play a team that actually plays football, they get blown out. Like, it isn't even close. They just get blown out. I don't understand why Dave Campbell's strokes their ego so much. There is no reason. They have 0% chance. They'll probably make it to the state championship game. And whoever they're playing is going to blow them out. You cut this, Donovan. Keep this tape to play December 17th after that game. Wimberley probably will make it. I don't know. Belleville may make it.
And if
but Wimberley is going to get blown out by Gilmer, Carthage, Pleasant Grove, Brock. Everybody on this list is going to blow Wimberley out. And I'm just going by historic facts on here. I don't care who's on their football team. They don't play the same football this division plays. And the UIL continues to get this wrong by these putting Carthage back in this region, ruin the state championship game. It should be Gilmer or PG playing Carthage in the state championship game every year on national television, and it's going to be a good game. Wimberley has 0% chance to beat any of these teams on this list. Glen Rose, I do not understand why they're ranked number 2. I know that, to remind y'all who Glen Rose is, that's a team Pleasant Grove beat by like 1,000 in the playoffs last year, right?
No.
Okay.
No,
Never mind.
3 years ago.
Who did they play in Melissa or wherever last year? It was like 60-0 at halftime.
Oh, that was Cattle Mills.
Well, hey, shout out to Cattle Mills coach. They were down like 60-0 at halftime, and he did not want to run the clock. And not only did he not want to run the clock, this dude would not quit throwing the ball and was kicking onside kicks constantly.
And calling timeout.
Yeah, and calling timeout. He's like, hey, I was standing there. He said, no, my kids got to learn how to get their tail beat, and we're not going to change anything. And no, we're not running the clock. And I remember Gibson being like, what? Never had anybody do that. But anyway, the dude did come out and kicked an onside kick. Like, he was asking to get beat by 100.
And then they put the foot back on the gas.
Yeah.
But, it's like that in several different levels of the David Campbell's rankings. It's like sometimes you look at some of these teams, like in the 3A Division II, like Poth. Man, who are these people? I mean, who are they? They make it 1 or 2 rounds deep in the playoffs, but they're always in the top 5, 6, 7.
One thing people have to keep in mind about Dave Campbell's is, like, I think people assume because of comments that Game Day has like 25 people working here or something. We're this big organization, and that's just not the case. It's not true. Well, Dave Campbell's isn't that big either. I've been to their corporate office.
Right.
They don't have that many people either. They have 10 max, like max 10. And of those 10, I think only 3 of them actually make decisions on anything.
Right.
So, and it might actually be 2. So I think some of this really does come down to who you know kind of thing. Because, listen, you know what you know. Like,
right.
I don't know what – let me think. I don't know what Linden has going on down there in football, okay?
Not a lot.
But let's just assume I did. I'd put them – we'd be talking about them or something. You know, like, I think it boils down to that. I mean, there's like 1,800 teams or something in Texas. It's impossible for them to know everybody. But the fact that they continue to put teams that every year get blown out when it comes down to it in these top things, it's a little disheartening. And
well, if you
long story short, it comes down to relationships.
Well, and I think a lot of it too is, you know, we do have the playoffs the way it is. You know, they are going to be coming from West Texas. For an entity like Dave Campbell's to have, you know, Wimberley possibly be in the top, I'm going to say 2 or 3 on that wing of the bracket, you've got to have them in the top 10.
Well, this is why it really discredits them. It would be like me saying Linden is the top team in our area just because I really like them. Like, it's just, it would be untrue. No disrespect to them. You're just not better than Texas High. You're not. Okay? But that's basically what they're saying here. I would take Brock. I would give you Wimberley minus 40 or Wimberley plus 40 against Brock. There is not a team on here that wouldn't beat them by at least 3 touchdowns. Brock may very well be the best team in 4A Division II.
Well, if you look at the computer rankings, which is also, other than Dave Campbell's, the computer rankings with Pigskin Prep is the authority on this. They have Brock number 1 in 4A Division II. They got Pleasant Grove 5, and they got Wimberley down at 9.
Yeah, Wimberley's not a top 5 team. They're not a top 10 team. They might not be a top 15 team in the state of Texas. They might not be a top 10 team in our region.
The closest game Wimberley's played in the state championship game is the Pleasant Grove game of 2019. I think that was 14 or 17.
Yeah, 35-21.
That's the closest game they've played. The rest of them have been 35.
No, they played them in the state championship.
No, state
game.
championship.
Oh, it was a
game.
state championship.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, Pleasant Grove ran the opening kickoff. Like, that's when you knew, like, I had heard this, it doesn't compare. When they ran the opening kickoff back, it looked like,
And
what?
it really wasn't that close.
No, it wasn't that close. That score at the end really made it look closer than it was. But, all right, so, I mean, in my opinion, let me give you my top 5, all right? I still think Gilmer's the number 1 team in the state, all right? With an asterisk that Brock, I haven't seen them yet. They may very well be the number 1 team in the state. Then you go Carthage. So let's just say somewhere in this order is going to be Brock, Carthage, Gilmer. Carthage lost to a good Carthage, a really good Kilgore team, who I said was going to beat them, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. Had no idea Pine Tree was about to beat Gilmer. But keep in mind, Pine Tree beat Texas High last year. And then is when it kind of gets interesting on who's 4 and 5. So Pleasant Grove would be in the top 5. I don't know. I'm like, I guess they're selling magazines. That's a good point. I didn't really think about, because I think when it comes to this stuff, there should be no politics played in this. But there obviously is politics played in it right now, and I don't like it, man. It just completely discredits them to me.
Well, you know, Belleville lost last week, but Belleville also played a tough team like Carthage and Gilmer did. They're 0-1, but that's really not an indication of what kind of team they are.
Yeah. And, you know, these teams, Carthage, Gilmer, Brock, Pleasant Grove, but nobody wants to play them. Like, it's hard for them to fill a schedule. Shout out to Atlanta for giving their kids and these PG kids that environment, because it was an amazing environment. They were great hosts. That stadium atmosphere with the trees and all that, like, Atlanta was a great host. Stands were full. Amazing atmosphere. I cannot say enough about the atmosphere. I hope they play this game every year. I want them to get back to that, because, man, it was great. And take a couple plays out of that game, and Atlanta's in it. Atlanta's going to be just fine. I'm excited to see what they do against a real good Hooks team this week. But sorry I got on that tangent. I think I got another one down here below it with another team. I just don't understand how they're getting away with these rankings. But they got us talking about them, so I guess that's what they want, you know.
Well, let's move right on down to Liberty-Eylau at Henderson. How about that first game for Brad?
So I've watched, by the way, shout out to Liberty-Eylau TV. Our producer, Donovan Brown, had produced that game. I've watched that game 2.5 times. I watched the first half one more time in the second half. All right, takeaways from that game. This new offense, I haven't really – I watch a lot of football. I've seen this offense before, but I didn't realize there were more playmakers. Not that, like, Prevo was the only one, but that was kind of the one I was looking for. And, you got Keelan Neal, who had had 2 receiving touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to think of – I'm going blank here on some of the names, and I apologize. But, like, Prevo had 6 receptions, 77 yards, and a touchdown. Keelan Neal, he had, like, 2 touchdowns. One of them, he picked the ball up off the ground and ran it in.
Well, it was after the fumble.
Yeah, after the fumble.
Yeah.
But all that aside, I would have never guessed in that offense they were in, they were only going to give up 3 points. I would have never guessed that in this new offense it was going to run that smooth week 1. I'm excited for the Liberty-Eylau Leopards. I'm excited for their fan base, and go to the games. Like this is y'all have something to be really excited about. I mean, it's cool. Tripp played a great game, 17 for 23, 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. And that's not all passing yards. He had like 83 rushing and a touchdown. They're spreading the ball around a lot. Man, I don't watch games 2 or 3 times. And I really I wanted to get a real feel on what this looks like. And listen, take nothing away from this win from the Leopards. Like they're going to have a really tough year, okay? Leopards defense, I think, scored 2 touchdowns. One of them being on a pick 6.
Yeah. Like Jaquan Johnson had the pick 6.
Yeah. It's going to be a tough year for Pittsburgh. All right, I'm not going to sit up here and lie to y'all and act like it didn't and they beat a top 3 team in the state or something. But what I will say is they would have beat a top team in the state last week. Like, they look good. I'm really excited to see what this Henderson game looks like. Shout out to Coach Willard and his staff. They have changed a lot of opinions in 1 week. I'm excited, and I'm here for it.
Well, one of the names that jumped out that I wasn't looking for was Jaquan Johnson. And, I mean, he had some impact in the running back role. I think for me, he's that missing link that is going to get them to be extremely competitive with Jefferson, in Atlanta. So I think there's definitely some things coming together. Tripp was Tripp. I mean, he looked good. He definitely has a handle on the offense, and I think he and Prevo are going to have some pretty magical evenings.
Well, Jaquan Johnson had a coming out party last year in the good game at Pleasant Grove. That was a very, very tough game. He kind of put himself on the map because he had a lot of carries, a lot of good yards in that game.
Yeah, I'm excited for that fan base. We talked last week about them having something to be excited about. Like, well, what a way to start the season. But they got a tough road coming up. They're going to have to go play at Henderson, which is never an easy win. Then they have Carthage coming to Liberty-Eylau, which that is not an easy win. I don't care what anybody says about Carthage.
If Liberty-Eylau could beat Carthage.
If
Liberty-Eylau beats Carthage, everybody gets free.
Dude,
pick a restaurant.
Like this
free food.
This town is going to go. If that were to happen, this town would go nuts.
It
would go nuts. Like. What do you say?
Is the game in Liberty-Eylau?
It's in Liberty-Eylau, yeah. Which I was really surprised to see that game on the schedule, to be honest with you. I wouldn't have scheduled that game. I'm going to be just 100% real with y'all. I would not have scheduled that game, but, they did. And, shout out to Coach for doing that. And it may have came down to he just had nobody else to play, just like Carthage. And I have a feeling – this offense, when they get into district, man, like when they have time to really perfect this stuff, and like they've had games and they've been in situations, man, Tripp is one of the best high school quarterbacks I've ever seen.
Well, he's like having an extra coach on the field.
Yeah, I might go back and watch that game again today.
Some people act surprised. I knew exactly what he was going to do. Yeah, I knew what he was going to do.
They run this little like diamond I'm going to call it like a diamond formation. Where it's like four guys on one side, and it's kind of shaped like a diamond, and there's so many options out of that, and it's just little quick passes for Tripp, but he gets them out real fast, and man, I'm excited for the Leopards. It's excited to see that program. They haven't been bad. The fan base is tough on those coaches. They hadn't been bad. They've made the playoffs. They've done everything they're better than a lot of teams in Texas. They just struggled against, Carthage and PG, and the fan base would give everybody a hard time. But this drop to 3A Division One, man, watch out for Liberty-Eylau over the next few years.
Don't want to say it too early, but Liberty-Eylau gives Texarkana another option there to go very, very deep in the state playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we could be sitting here 3-4 years from now. Texas High's playing for it, PG's playing for it, Liberty-Eilau's playing for it, and we know how great the football is here in Texarkana. But you go to Houston or Dallas, and they're like, oh man, we have all these dudes. It's like, well, this one little bitty town over here in the corner of nowhere that nobody covers but us. Probably, I would definitely say per capita has more athletes than anywhere else in the state of Texas. I saw where Pleasant Grove, Dave Campbell's did that thing where per capita they have more Division I players than any other public school in the state.
Yep.
I don't know who did that math, why they did that, who even sits down to do that, and how accurate it is. But it's like, okay, I can see that. I would have never thought to look for that, but now that you say it, yeah, they probably do.
Well, you can put a pin right in the middle of the state line and go 50 miles in a circle around. That area right there produces more Division I athletes than the entire state of Arkansas. It produces more athletes than the metropolitan area of Shreveport, more than the metropolitan area of Little Rock. That's a huge statement right there.
Yeah.
So I want to say something real quick, and I noticed this as it was on the show I watched on Netflix the other day. The new one told about the Michigan sign stealing scandal.
Great documentary.
Great documentary. If you watch, and when he shows on his computer that map of recruiting that he deal, when he shows the state of Texas, I had to rewind it and pause it and look at it. You can look at Northeast Texas and how many little dots and stuff he had in that corner, and then there's nothing, and then there, of course, the Dallas area is going to have their dots,
yeah,
and then Houston had some, and then that's really it.
The best thing I can come up with, our high school coaching staffs in this area are phenomenal. But I think we got to take it back further than that. I think it starts in Little League.
Oh, for sure.
I really believe that. I mean, we have some great Little League programs in our area where these kids are learning football. They're for instance, let's say LEYA, PGYA. They're running the same off. Well, I don't know if LEYA is right now because I just changed the offense. But when Kendrick King was running it, he may still be running LEYA. I know he's the middle school guy now. Great coach, great person, by the way. You'd love for your kid to play for him. These kids were excited. It was all the Liberty-Eylau, it was everything you see on a Friday night, just shrunk down for little kids. And one of the things I always said when we started game day, hey, let's treat these kids like they're professionals, but we have to act like they're professionals. We have to treat them like they're professionals. And he treats these really young kids with the level of excitement you would when Prevost scores a touchdown on a Friday night. He treats it like it's that exciting. You just beat this or that. And man, for a young kid, I remember playing Little League. Some of my fondest memories of football were 3rd, 4th grade football, playing for the Bramlett Bears down in Longview. Coach Armstrong, he would get that excited about stuff. And Kendrick's going to be a head coach somewhere one day, and I'm using him as a specific reference because I've seen him do it, and I'm sure there's a lot of coaches just like him. But when that guy gets a head coaching position, one school is going to get really lucky because, it's just that dude. It's not just him. His wife goes all in. There's a mural of her in downtown Texarkana. They just – it's a family thing, and it's amazing, and I'm glad those kids have him and her as a part of that program. But, yeah, it starts in Little League. Long story short, it starts in Little League.
Well, back to Liberty-Eylau and Henderson. I don't know nothing about Henderson. But all I can say is, and just from what I know, Henderson, you're going to have some trouble. You got some trouble coming to town.
Yeah, Henderson, they're about as equal as where they've been the last few years. They're a good football team. But, they're getting kind of rated by Carthage a little bit. Not just them, everybody is. But, it is what it is. This isn't a for sure dub for LE or anything. This is going to be a good football game. If LE went in and just blew them out, I would be surprised.
I think it was 8 years ago I went and watched Carthage and Henderson play a playoff game at Longview, and it was a heck of a game.
Well, on the offensive side, Justin Starling had 184 yards and running the ball for him last week. Had 3 total TDs. So Liberty-Eylau is going to be looking to contain him. And then on the defensive side, I think with the way that the offense is being run with Liberty-Eylau right now, with those quick passes, I think Varian Williams is going to be contained. He had 3 sacks last week against Athens. But with Liberty-Eilau's offense being so quick, I think they were going to take their quickness on defense out of the game. And then I still think that Prevost is going to be the man to stop as far as from the receiving core over there.
Well, I mean, Keelan Neal looked really shifty the other night, and Prevost is that man to stop. But this option, I didn't know who the second option was going to be, but after watching that game, like he is that second option. He's good. He's really good. But actually, I'm going to be at that game Friday night. I'm gonna roll through Marshall Longview. I'm gonna drop the Longview game day trailer off because they have a home game next week against South Oak Cliff. And I'm gonna holler at my Longview guys for a little bit. I'm gonna roll down, check out probably the first half of this Liberty-Eylau game. I'm gonna take a quick check at halftime, see if this Longview Marshall game's anything, and if it's not, I'll probably stay. If it is, might roll up there, catch the second half of it. 'Cause it's not that far away from there.
Hey,
but
speaking of that, what you just said, South Oak Cliff comes to Longview. Mm-hmm. How well you think they'll travel all the way to Longview?
Listen, I don't think it matters because people are going to come from far and wide
just to go,
just to
Right.
see it. Just to see, like, Coach Todd 2 times is he's got a great thing going, man, and it's his community, and not only it's like the state of Texas loves them some South Oak Cliff.
For sure.
So if they're anywhere close, I've been to that stadium where there's like you couldn't sit in that stadium. And the little thing at the end, I don't even know what that's called.
The hill?
The hill, it's full. People are standing. Before there was a fence, chairs set up there up top. And then, you couldn't get in the stadium because they were at capacity. You're sitting out on the other side in the trees watching the game from there. I can't be at that game. I know it's going to be a big one. But there will be no less than, let's see, the stadium capacity is 12,500. There'll be no less than 15 to 17,500 people there.
Right. Well, lucky enough, we have a bye that week, so we were kind of tossing around what do we want to do. But
Well, I mean, y'all, that particular, you got to come watch Dangerfield play.
that's what we decided to do.
Okay, yeah. Don't blame me on that. Quick move here. Arkansas High loses kind of a game that I think a lot of people had them picked to kind of possibly get beat big in, but they lose 20-15, forced some turnovers in the second half. William Dunbar played a good game, 21-37, 244, and a couple of TDs. Gabriel Braggs, 7 receptions, 100 yards, and a touchdown. Great defensive performance from Christina Roberts, Rodney Kinley, and Halen Dangerfield, as well as McQuan Traylor. But, Arkansas High, man, they have a tough road this year.
and that was a heartbreaker. They lost in the last 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And and they're in the toughest 5A conference in the state of Arkansas. It doesn't get any easier. Morrilton, a non-conference game, but Morrilton's always tough.
Well, and they went in halftime down 14-0. And so great
came back to
turnaround.
get
Great
ahead.
turnaround second half, had a chance to win. And definitely heartbreaking loss, but I think those second half adjustments that they made, if they can carry those into this week's game, they're going to give it all they can tomorrow.
Well, it shows their kids are coachable. So, it's a lot of people don't realize at the high school level it's difficult to make those kind of changes at halftime.
Well, you got a couple dynamic offensive playmakers in Tony Noble, who's a junior this year. No, he's a sophomore this year. Tony Noble's going to be possibly a Division I athlete. Will Dunbar, he stepped right in for Nate Wall, and a lot of folks always said he threw the ball better than Nate. He just, Nate was just a dynamic athlete. But Dunbar's a good kid. He's very coachable. And, he's going to have some really great stats this year. And that season will ride on Will Dunbar's shoulders.
And Malik Dangerfield, he's dangerous on, as far as receiving role. Arkansas, they've got a lot of weapons.
They've got some players, absolutely.
Are they playing home this week? Is it a home
No,
game?
it's at Morrilton,
At Morrilton.
which is up by Conway.
The Devil Dogs.
The Devil Dogs.
Good luck to them. Who we got next? DeKalb at Pittsburgh.
This is a very interesting game here. 4A Division II Pittsburgh plays DeKalb and is a 15-point dog.
Man, I'm going to be honest with you. Who's a 15-point dog? Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh.
Okay, I was about to say, I hate to say this. That doesn't really surprise me.
It was very surprising to me.
I have a feeling we're not going to see the same quarterback we saw last week. I have a feeling we're not going to see the same of a lot of things we saw last week out of Pittsburgh. They immediately went to DEFCON 10 on crisis mode, or whatever the highest DEFCON is.
Pittsburgh,
whatever happened is not what they've been seeing in practice, evidently. So they got to figure something out.
there was a lot of chatter last year about a coaching change, and they decided to stick with Tristan. I think things are going to be very, very rocky and uncomfortable in Pittsburgh this fall because there's a lot of money over there. Pittsburgh has won in the past, and this just hasn't worked out the way it was supposed to.
Might be a good opportunity for Coach King to polish that resume up.
Yeah.
No, Coach King don't need to leave Texarkana. We got to keep Coach King here.
And you know,
We don't want to be playing
We were
against.
just talking about that.
We don't want to be playing against Coach King.
Well, you got a point there.
and I don't want to make that sound bad about Tristan because Tristan had a very, very successful run at Paul Pewitt. Went down to Mahia, had a couple good years. It just hasn't translated into wins at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and I like Coach Abron. I think highly of him. I think he's a great football coach and a great leader of young men. But, yeah, no, it hasn't gone his way down there. And I don't really know something people don't want to say, including myself out loud sometimes, sometimes like you got to have some horses in the stable to compete in Texas high school football. You just do. And I ain't seeing
Well, Pittsburgh,
like the arm or Air Force commit out of Pittsburgh. I think he's won Air Force, the running back. I didn't see
that's
either.
Holloway.
Liberty-Eilau's defense is really, really good,
So
or I'm not saying what everybody else is, and that's just one football game. And I'm not saying like he is a Division I player, but I'm just saying like he hasn't had maybe what it takes, and fans and administration sometimes don't want to. Let me tell y'all something about a parent. You can't tell like. Everybody's mom and dad thinks their football player is the best one on the field, bar none. I mean, it just happens. It just is what it is. So you go to these local small communities, and that's what they think about. All of them, they don't see everybody else. They have nothing to compare to. And listen, you are not going to get me to say Tristan Abron's a bad football coach. I'm just not going to say it because it's not true.
No.
He's a very good coach.
Tristan isn't. Tristan
There's
is
something else, and and I'm not going to say he's the problem because he can't be.
There's a whole lot of problems with Pittsburgh. Is they do not have their linemen. Their linemen are tiny. Holloway's. If you put Holloway anywhere else, he's going to be an all-state player. He's bigger than his linemen. At the end of the day,
Well, you got to look. Another thing too, you got to look at historically. Pittsburgh used to be a dominant 3A team. 20 years ago. They've always been known to be a contender, and then to have such a fall off. But if you think about the dynamics in that area, with the infrastructure and all that stuff, I mean, it's the schools are kind of changing towards like what's our buddy in Mount Pleasant? My mind went blank.
Randall.
It's kind of turning into a soccer club. The soccer school. The kids are wanting to play soccer. And it's dwindling away from football. So I think kind of in that area, that's kind of what's happening.
They need to bring Cole Wetzel back. Cole is all state over there. They need to let him coach him.
Well, the best running back
He ain't going to do any better.
The best running back in this game is probably going to be on the DeKalb side of the ball. And, Caden Weary had 168 yards and 3 TDs last week. So, it'll be interesting to see what he can do against this Pittsburgh, school. And, for me, it's always interesting to see these, small schools play larger schools just to see the dynamics there. And a lot of times for these smaller schools, it's who wants it more.
Before we get ahead of ourselves, I want to give a shout out. Sam White's grandsons. What's their names?
Man, if you hadn't asked me, I'd have told you right off the top of my head.
Well, anyway, Sam White's grandsons, they're twin boys. One of them was quarterback last week, one was receiver, brother to brother, touchdown. So shout out to Sam's grandsons.
I think you're talking about what, Jalen and
Yes.
Yeah, Jalen.
Cortland.
Jalen and Cortland, that's right. Absolutely. But shout out to Jalen and Cortland on your big performance last week.
And Cortland had 2 DDs.
He did.
Newton at Jefferson.
Oh, this is going to be a great game. Exciting game.
Yeah.
Newton got blanked last week by West Orange Stark.
Yeah, but West Orange Stark is West Orange Stark.
Yeah, but
Newton is Newton.
Yeah, but they've kind of
I
fell
don't know
off.
if I
too.
don't know if Newton's what they used to be, but
Right.
Newton back in the day was Newton.
Right.
Everybody knew who Newton was.
Now Newton's legitimate. West Orange Stark's a little bit bigger, and they're always good. But Newton was down last year. 2 years ago they were nasty, but they have a great tradition, and it's going to be a great game.
I don't see Atlanta at Hooks on here, but that's a rivalry game.
Absolutely, that's going to be that'll be a great game. Peyton Harrison, Markeelan Batten, and Jaden Riley, they want to bounce back after last week. I know they were disappointed. They'd been circling that game, and it just didn't work out in their favor. They have nothing to hold their heads down for. Everything's still in front of them. But you look at Hooks, you got Ripken Birdwell, Don Chavis, Coulter, great players. This should be really a fantastic game.
Yeah, Redwater almost pulled the upset on Brook Hill.
They did. And
They did until it was right to the end.
They were 43-point dogs, and congrats to
I
Redwater
saw that.
for
I didn't know if
covering.
that was real or not. Whoever that is on there, I always think that whoever that is trolling. Were they actually 43-point dogs?
Absolutely were.
What was that on the Dave Campbell side? That was
was
on the
Dave
Dave Campbell side because I remember I called you about it.
And
Right.
that's Buddy called
Who is
me.
making lines for high school football games?
Pigskin Prep does that. But in Pigskin Prep, they're
I'm gonna start. I ain't gonna be betting on high school football, but I'm saying I would have taken that.
Well, anyway,
Like,
Pigskin
I would
Prep.
have Redwater
is,
in points. Give it to me.
They're basing equivalent to Dave Campbell's, but they do the computer rankings and the spreads. How they got to 43 with Brook Hill, we went a few years ago to a JV game over there, and Brook Hill's varsity looked like a JV team. They were tiny, and I'm like, how do they win any games? But then you see a 43-point favorite over Redwater, and you're like, there's no way that's going to happen.
Maybe the sideline can start setting spreads. We can start putting that out each
I've
week.
got a little information on that.
Hey,
Well, let me just throw out that's not going to be a part of Texarkana game day. I might be sitting here, but I have nothing to do with that.
So
Just for fun.
Yeah, and so just to throw this out there,
you want to make some people mad? Do that.
Ben straight copies that from Pigskin Preps.
I do, and people
But
get mad.
some of the people out there don't know that, and they think Ben's making it up, and they're like, "Ben, where are you coming up with this stuff at?"
But here's the deal. Pigskin Prep, 80% of the time is right there. Now, the Redwater game, they were way off. The Queen City game, they were way off.
Speaking of Queen City, shout out to Hunter Parker, 12 for 17, 289 yards, 2 touchdowns.
He's a good player.
Great game. Man, I got some college stuff to get into, unless we got some high school stuff y'all want to talk about. 104th meeting of Longview versus Marshall this Friday, and it's going to be another Longview Lobos win. Just letting y'all know ahead of time.
Hey,
But
speaking
you can
of
catch that on our YouTube channel or Longview Game Day.
Longview, who'd they play last week?
Lufkin,
Look, it was a 7-0 game.
7-3 game.
7-3 game. 7-3 game. Yeah.
4 red zone,
Yeah.
lost fumbles. I don't know, man. They got a tough road ahead. Longview does.
We got to talk about the Arkansas and Oklahoma State game.
I'm actually going to be at that game, but before we do that, I told a small school in Montana a year ago I was going to come give them some coverage. So you got the Gardner, Montana Bruins. Let me set the scene for y'all. Little bitty town. I bet you less than 600 residents, maybe less than 400. It's tiny. I mean,
Is this where you're parking your van?
Well, I keep my van in Bozeman, Montana, but this is the town you hit. Do y'all know where the Roosevelt Arch is? You've seen it in Yellowstone. You might not know where it's at. The Roosevelt Arch, built in like the late 1800s. They have this beautiful arch built out of brick or whatever they built it out of. And the school, if you're standing on the football field, you can see the Roosevelt Arch, Yellowstone's in the background, Electric Mountains over behind it. It's beautiful. I've been to that field, and there were 15, 20 bison on it. I've been to that field, and there's full-grown elk standing on it.
On the football field.
On the field, pronghorn. Like the football field is half in Yellowstone, half out of Yellowstone.
Right.
Okay, so it's a really unique situation. There are no stands. Like,
We bring lawn chairs.
I guess I hadn't been to a game.
Oh,
But
okay.
anyway, I'm going to be in Montana October 1st through the 10th. I'm going to come check out their home game against West Yellowstone on the 9th, which is West Yellowstone's just right on the other side of Yellowstone. They're going to come over, play Gardner. I'm going to come out, give them some coverage, let y'all know how it compares to Texas high school football.
A little smaller
Probably their
crowds.
rodeo might compare better, but they play 11-man. I don't know how. They're
Right.
playing 11-man football, so
They're 1-0.
yeah, and I'm gonna
They won last week, 56-8.
and
Watch out.
with the mountains in the background, you can literally see the Roosevelt Arch from one side of the field. I'm gonna get some of that in the background. They've never had anything like this.
they're gonna be
I
excited.
was eating breakfast at a place, and the guy told me, he volunteers as a football coach, and
Oh, he's a volunteer coach.
yeah, oh, dude, this is a little bitty. This town is so small. There's a town called Cook City, Montana. It's the only road in winter that's open. They have to keep it open to keep Cook City. It's a high elevation city. It's where I typically will go stay. Just park my van in there and stay. Anyway, right outside Lamar Valley, these kids will have to live during the week because they can't run a bus. It's like a 3-hour drive, even though it's only 20 miles.
Right.
They live with people in Gardner, Montana, and go to school in Gardner, Montana. And so anyway, it's a really, really cool dynamic, and I'm going to go check out their game, give them the same coverage we give here, and kids are super excited about it, and I'm kind of getting excited too. It's been a long time since I've been to a really small school.
And when are you going?
Game.
That'd be awesome.
I'll be in Montana October 1st. I don't know when that game falls. It's somewhere between then and when I leave. And it may not be West Yellowstone, but if they're playing somebody.
Yeah,
Not
Alberton, Hot Springs, and Knoxon.
Well, one of those.
All right.
So let's go Bruins. But hopefully there'll be, some bison.
The
show up-
Bruins.
show up for the game as well. Anyway,
Let's move on to Arkansas and
all
Oklahoma
right.
State.
Sorry, I'm gonna head. I'm gonna be at that game. I'm gonna dub this Nick Martin versus Landon Jackson.
4 former Hawks in this game.
Yeah, that's nuts. That really is crazy. You got Willie Andrews from Longview. Also, he won't be dressed up, I'd assume. But also on the Oklahoma State team, number 17 ranked Oklahoma State. They got to figure out a way to stop the run. Arkansas played, Texas High East, I guess, in their game. And looked good. But, now they got to play a real football team. So how does this look?
This is a game that this is a much bigger game for Arkansas than it is Oklahoma State. If Arkansas wins this game, you might go sneak out 6-7, possibly the stars align 8 wins. If you don't win this game,
Ben.
I know
you
Ben's
follow this?
an Arkansas fan. That's where that's coming from. Listen, Sam Pittman's been really good to me. I like Sam Pittman, and I don't think he's doing a bad job. I think the expectations that Arkansas has for themselves are unwarranted, and I don't really know why the fans have the expectation they have year in and year out. It's unbelievable.
Hey,
we have no expectation.
listen.
No, that's not true. Your fans, you can't tell them nothing. They might be worse than A&M fans, and A&M wins every now and then.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Anyway, back to this Arkansas-Oklahoma State game.
All right, well, okay.
Hey, listen.
All right.
Hey, we ain't got enough time left in the show. This dude will fight right here, and he'll die.
That's
on
my
that-
point. That's my point.
He'll die on that hill.
Hey,
We got Bobby Petrino. That's all that matters.
Did A&M win last week?
They lost.
yeah, but my point being about
Good game,
Pittman,
though.
Pittman's on the hot seat, and it's as hot as it's ever been for anybody.
right.
He better not go.
Do you want the skinny on this?
Because they want Petrino to give a shot to.
Give
Here's
us
the
a
thing.
skinny. Give us a skinny, Ben.
If Oklahoma State can't stop the run, Arkansas has a chance. And then the other part is, Petrino is going to be your coach after the year regardless. That was brought in, set up, come back.
You already firing Pittman?
What do you think Pittman did? This was Pittman's way not to get fired. You go in and you pick him up, give it a year, then turn it over to Petrino.
Also, you saying he's retiring? He's going. I'm retiring.
No, he's going to take his. You owe me $27 million. You're going to fire me. I ain't retiring for nobody.
Be like Coach O down at LSU. Which door you want me to go out of?
Yeah, hey, I bet that. Hey, maybe you catch me at 25. No, I don't want to get fired. Hey,
But
40,
anyway.
no, you're gonna fire me.
It's going to be a fun game. I mean, there's going to be more than 60 points scored in this game.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, I mean, I think it's just going to come down to who's got the ball last.
And I want to tell you, if you don't think Taylor Green can ball, it doesn't matter if it's UAPB. You look at the stuff for last 2 years at, Boise State. The kid's going to be a real player. Arkansas's got a good defense. If that offense can gel,
Who says they have a good defense?
Arkansas's defense
Who
wasn't
said it,
terrible
though?
last
That's my
year.
point.
But
That's
who
my
said
point
it?
right there. They
But who
just
said
beat
it?
really a non-college football team.
Hey,
and
Landon.
he's like, and we had a shutout. Oh, look how good we are. That's my point right there.
Landon, if you're watching this, Morgan's saying the defense isn't good. I'm saying it
First off,
is.
Landon's nasty on defense. Like, dude's going to be a first-round draft pick. That don't make everybody else good.
Well, if you look last year,
Nobody asked you who said.
Arkansas's defense was solid. They were so bad on offense that they couldn't win games. But at the end of the day, last year they lose to LSU by 3. They used to Alabama by 3.
How many points did Oklahoma State score this weekend?
Arkansas wins 45-42.
That's not a good defense. What are you talking about? That's not a good defense. 44 points given up is not an indication of a good
Oklahoma
defense.
State has Ollie.
Nick Martin not going to let that happen.
Well, the defense, it ain't Nick I'm worried about. It's this defensive line.
But anyway,
I'm genuinely worried about this defensive line for Oklahoma State.
before we get in a fight up here, I think we're out of time.
Well, before we do that, your boy did go ahead and re-sign with the 49ers. Trent Williams signed the richest non-QB contract ever. Makes him
Crazy.
by far the highest paid offensive lineman ever. Restructured a deal, $48 million due at signing. Dang near a fully guaranteed 3-year contract for a
He is
about
probably
to be 36-year-old player.
the best lineman I've ever seen.
Yeah, so he re-signed. I got with there. So I'm basically doing all but one home game and 2 away games this year for the 49ers. Kind of excited about that. But unbelievable. That's going to bring his career earnings to over $360 million. With
Congrats to Trent.
almost 78%
for sure.
of that was guaranteed money. That's how good he is. Put that in perspective, y'all. They don't give guaranteed money very often. Not like this.
I just
this
like
is
watching his.
insane.
I like watching his highlights. Like, just the recent highlight came out where I can't even remember who it was on the team had got into it with somebody on the other team, and he steps in.
Yeah, Trent's not scared to throw hands.
Oh no! Hey,
At all. I can tell you.
y'all know.
a
You know
story.
what highlight I'm talking about?
Well, I'm not-
Like he's.
Dang, dude, act like you've been here before.
Come on, Ben.
Golly.
And then
bad.
once Trent gets involved, it's like everybody just backs off.
Yeah, I've known Trent a long time, but like, I think there ain't another person on this planet that I would want to show up more than Trent Williams if somebody wants to fight. I'm saying, y'all know, maybe a prime Mike Tyson.
Yeah,
But I'll be honest, I don't think Trent's losing to a fight to a prime Mike Tyson. This dude is
he's just
not a nice person when he gets mad. I want y'all to just think about that. There are men, J.J. Watt doesn't want any part of Trent Williams. And you can imagine, I don't have to know if he can fight or not to know. He probably can fight. These dudes are super athletes.
Well, here's
But-
the deal: you have to have tackles like him to combat against like defensive ends like Crosby. Crosby crushes people, but you had to have a tackle like that to combat that kind of defensive end.
Yeah. Hey, I don't want this to go unnoticed because a lot of people don't know this. Elite Loyalty Sports is owned by Longview native Vincent Taylor. And Vincent Taylor has done the richest contract in NFL history now 5 times.
He was on the show before.
Congrats
Yes,
to
he
him.
has.
Yeah.
3 of those coming with Trenton Williams. He's also Jason Peters' agent. He did the largest offensive lineman deal with the most guaranteed money deal ever in 2015 for Jason Peters when he signed his big deal. He's had the #1 draft pick in the NFL, the guy from Georgia that plays at Jacksonville now. I can't think of his name, and I always mess that up. And he's had a top 5 pick 3 times, man. And, you're not ever going to know who that is, but Vincent Taylor out of Longview, Texas, man, making generational wealth for these guys. Shout out Vincent Taylor. What do y'all guys got this week? Anything?
That's
Any parting
about it.
takes?
Texas is traveling to Michigan, so I'm looking forward to that game.
Ann Arbor.
Get ready. You think Arkansas fans are bad? God, they made a whole documentary about them.
Yeah, Michigan will win that by 3 touchdowns.
Hey, so I'm going to the game with some
That's
guys.
a crazy atmosphere there too.
Do you, what?
How many times you
Did
been?
you say Michigan was going to win by 3 touchdowns?
That's what Ben said. So
Ben also said Arkansas's defense was great, and then turned right around and said they're going to give up 44 points.
42.
Yeah, you said 45-44. Go back and watch it. I'm just saying.
All right, well, that's all we got this week.
Yeah, he wants to shut it down now.
hey,
All right.
I just want to say if go out and support these kids. Find you a game to go to. If not, tune in Texas County Game Day, YouTube, Facebook. If you're on YouTube, Morgan always says, please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
90% of our viewers on YouTube aren't subscribed. I don't know, and I don't know a whole lot about it. I don't know why y'all aren't subscribing. I don't know how to make y'all subscribe.
It's just a click.
But
That's all it is.
It's literally just a click. I don't know, man. But like, how we only have like 13,000 people following our YouTube channel after getting like 12 to 15 million views a year? Like, what?
Hey, you should be getting like the YouTube little plaque that they mail out or whatever, you know?
Man, you got to get like 1 million subscribers.
I know, but I'm saying
You have to have 100,000. Well, hey, at this point,
Hey,
I don't think we're gonna get there.
viewers, 72,000 of you guys, if all of y'all would just click subscribe, we could get Morgan that plaque. So
Man, at this point, let's just have Exit 208 make me one and say it's right.
yeah, Exit
You know what I
208,
mean?
yeah.
I don't think we're getting to 100K at this point.
But hey, go out and support these young men that put in hard work. Find a game to go to. If not, tune in, like I said, and just support these guys.
Until